Greetings, fellow makers! I'm Bill, and welcome to the Prop Shop, live from the shop here on Twitch, twitch.tv/punishprops. If you're not following us over there, what are you doing? These are really fun to watch live, and today we got our chat, we got our Prop Tarts, very, very active, hanging out, because they want to see me work on my new costume. Hey, we got a new sub. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for 2 months in a row. Bam! You guys are excited, the Prop Tarts are excited because I'm working on a new costume. I'm starting my Mechanist costume. I started some pieces. I got some eyeball things. These are the things that'll go on the helmet, but I need the base that this is going to go on. It's going to be made out of foam. So I want to try something different today. Normally, I would make a head template on my head form, but I know not everyone has a head form. If you want to look at how I made mine, there's a video. We'll link that in the description. That's a really good video on doing a cheap head form. But even if you don't want to do that, then I want to try something. Making a head template out of expanded polystyrene or insulation foam. This stuff, boop, that I got right behind me. I cut some chunks of it here. I'm going to glue these together in a stack and then sort of sculpt the helmet, half of it anyway, to make half the template because it's symmetrical. I haven't tried this yet. I'm going to give it a go and we'll see how it happens. So follow along. This should be a really fun ride. This is what I'm working on here to get all my measurements for my helmet. I have photographs of my head with a ruler in the same photo. And then I put the reference from the game. I grabbed some screenshots and I laid it over my head and scaled it appropriately. And then I can get a rough idea of what the helmet should look like. I thought about just printing this out and tracing it, but then it's a little weird. Like the eyes are a little wide and I might fudge it a tiny bit. So I'm just going to draw it out. I have just kind of the same work area laid out here, and I'm going to work from those reference images to draw my own profiles of this helmet. These profiles will get transferred onto my material to make the form in a little bit, but for now, I'm just kind of not really wing it, but I've got the measurements all laid out. So here's my material. I've got my profile shapes all drawn out. I'm going to glue these layers together so I have a big chunk of foam. I'm using spray glue here. I found this Loctite stuff that should work. Super 77 would be really good too if you've got it. I just spray it on. Spray it on one side. Spray it on the other side. Like that. Give them both a good 15 seconds or so to cure. Let them sort of dry off a bit. And then I can stick them together. Once I've given the two faces a little time to dry, I can stick the two halves together. Do it on this side, like this, and they will stick, like so. Give that a little time to dry, and then I can start carving out of this once I have it all done. So I've got my block of foam, my big block that we made a sandwich of. I've traced the front of my helmet on there, and I traced the side of the helmet right there, making sure that this is in the proper orientation. I don't want to twist this, so that everything should line up. Now I'm going to carve these profile shapes in and try and get this into the form that I want, using those lines as a reference guide. The tools, I'm going super low tech on this. I've got just a sharp knife to carve away a lot of material, and then I've got a file. This is a Shinto File, or you can use a Surefire, not Surefire. You could use a Rasp to remove a lot of the material. This thing works really great to remove the material. I might also grab my dust collector, my vacuum, to get rid of all this. But this is it. These are the two main tools, and I'll use some sandpaper to clean it up once I've got it down to the rough shape that I want. So here we go. I got the front profile carved out with all my tools there. And then the other profile, this would fit in my bandsaw, so I cut it out roughly with the bandsaw. So I've got this shape here now, and I'm going to go in and round it around the other direction there, kind of by eye. So again, more shaping with the old file there. So good times. There is the rough shape of half of my helmet. There you go. And the upside of doing it this way is it's really cheap. And it only took me about an hour and a half to get to this point. So now what I'm going to do is make my template, half of my template on this, by covering it in duct tape, or whatever tape you have. This is masking tape. The good news is that this masking tape probably won't stick very well. Yeah, that'll come up pretty well. So I'm not going to lay anything down. If you have tape that's going to stick, you could wrap this in Saran wrap or wrap it in, what would you call it? Foil. You could wrap it in tin foil or aluminum foil first and then put your tape down. I'm just going to put masking tape right down on it, and then I can draw my pattern on that and cut it off. So this just goes along the midline here. So here's our mummified half a helmet shape covered in masking tape here. And I'm going to draw my pattern on there. Now the reference actually has some seams along the side and top, and I'm going to try and follow those the best that I can. So one of them goes down through the ear puck, and then one of them goes around the crown. So I'm going to try and draw the seams on there, and then maybe cut this apart and see how it turns out. So we've got a couple of things here, a couple of references. These are the drawings I made earlier. Whoops. The crown meets down here. So that's a good place to start. And it kind of, I'm just looking at the drawing right there, it kind of comes up. There's an M on his face. So this kind of goes straight up at an angle like that. And then it follows this sort of hump up here. Like that. And then comes around like that. And that's good because I know that this part right here I can probably make from one flat piece of foam. That should work out all right. And then this should meet at a 90-degree about. And then the, I didn't measure where it goes, but I can eyeball it. There's an ear puck roughly here, and the line just goes right through it like that. And that is the least straight line ever, Bill! So let me get a ruler, like so, and just do this. It's kind of parallel to the back here. And I can just draw that like that. And then the ear is about halfway. The ear hole thing goes roughly right there. So I'm hoping that this will be 3 panels. We'll cut it apart and we'll find out. There's one piece there, there's one piece there, and there's one piece there. The main thing is if there's a seam down the front. If there's a seam down the back, I'm not too worried about it, but the front might be a problem. I don't want there to be a seam down the nose. So hopefully this whole front part can be one panel, but we'll find out. I'm going to just trim this off and we'll find out if it works. So I've got my shape here all drawn out, and I'm just going to trim these pieces of tape apart along these seams that I've made, and then I can peel them apart separately and make my templates. And I can cut right into the foam. It's totally fine. I just have a really sharp X-Acto knife. There we go. That's it. Before I peel this apart, I want to make hash marks on here. Evil Ted would be furious if he knew I didn't do this. I'm just making marks so that I can line these up later. Just drawing some hash marks. Like so. There we go. And because it's tape, it should lay down pretty flat. like so. Looks like there's enough of a bend on this. I'm gonna have to do this part in 2 pieces because there's this curve there. Oops. I need hash marks there too. But all I have to do now is trace this. Let's do. I'm just transferring those. Trace this onto my paper, and I've got a nice sturdy template because the masking tape isn't going to be so sturdy. I'm going to cut my hash marks in. So I'm going to say this is the top left. And then if I flip it over, it'll be the right side. And we'll cut out our form. That is one pattern piece. I'll do that for the rest of this thing, and then I can try and make a helmet. So this is the front right here, and I'm going to plan on putting a dart just up there. So I'll just cut it with my X-Acto. You can see how that opens it up a bit, and now it can lay flat much better. When we cut that out in foam, we'll glue that dart back together and it will make a nice curve for us. Tracing out my my pattern pieces here that I made onto a floor mat that I'm gonna use. This might work out, it might not, I don't know, but this is just a crummy floor mat I literally picked up off the floor, and I predict I will need to make some changes on this. So I'll use this to kind of make a more refined pattern. But who knows, maybe I got it right on the first try. Oh, there we go. So all I'm doing is tracing this out with a Sharpie. And then I'll cut it out and glue it together. And we'll see if it works. I sharpen my knife. Like so. We cut it out. And even though this one is like kind of a test piece, I still try and make sure I cut it out very well so that it all fits together nicely. Cut out my darts here. While I'm cutting those out, I'm going to glue up my dart here. I'm going to get glue everywhere. A little bit of Barge. Make sure I get it down into that seam. Make sure I get it everywhere, apparently. Like that. And then there's a lot in there. I only need a tiny bit in there. In fact, I can use a little scrap of foam to help kind of clean that out. I don't want there to be an excess of glue in the seam. So I put some glue in there, I let it dry a little bit of that Barge, and I'm going to stick this dart together. And this will give this top part of the form a little bit of roundness. Notice how slow I'm going. Taking my time, trying to line up the seam really nicely, like that. And you can just mash that together and pop it out a little bit. And there we go. Makes it nice and round. You can heat gun this a little bit if you want to heat form it. That'll help give us that shape that we want in the form. But now that I got that, I can glue up. This part goes, actually, that's the back. These parts go together, and this part goes on the top, so I can start putting Barge on all of these seams. Alright, our glue is pretty much dry on those seams. I can mash them together. I've pushed my my darts together. These should all line up to the hash marks that I made earlier. They should, I hope. I slowly just press those edges together like so. And that looks pretty good. So this makes the side panel of our helmet, and that will go around like that. And then the top of it, this should help give it that form. The top just goes along here. And I might need to taper these cuts a little bit, but we'll find out. This is really going to force it to to make that helmet shape that we want. And there's that. Here's half our helmet, and it already looks a little big. So I may have to do a little bit of modification. So there's half of our helmet, like so. Ta-da! So far, our test helmet, I've decided I'm going to probably build this again because this floor mat foam is really rough. And I'm probably going to have to make some changes to the design. We'll see. I'm going to put Barge along the edges here and glue the two halves together, and then I can try it on. Alright, I have the two halves of my helmet here. I put Barge along the seam of it. It's nice and dry, ready to go, and I'm going to glue the two halves together. Just pressing them together. Whoop, carefully pressing them together. There we go. Ta-da! That's a big old freaking helmet right there. And let's see if it fits on my noggin. Oh yeah, it's all kinds of room in here. There is my Mechanist helmet. A little lumpy right there. I think I need to smooth out the seam on the pattern a little bit. I can heat form this quite a bit too to get it to a better shape. And I do think this is just a touch big. So what I'll probably end up doing is taking these patterns that I made here and scanning them or taking a picture of them and redrawing them in Inkscape or something, scaling it down maybe 10%, a little bit smaller. But this is pretty good. This is a really, really great start. There is our quick shape for the Mechanist helmet there. It's a little big, so I'm going to probably take this apart, maybe refine my patterns a little bit, maybe scale them down a little bit. But the shape is fairly good. Clearly I need to round some of those seams out a little bit. But this got me most of the way there. Definitely a little wide. Yeah, so there you go. That is a very cheap way to get a template made if you don't have a head form. Again, this whole thing was done on our live stream at twitch.tv/punishedprops. So head on over there and give us a follow so you can catch these when they happen live every week on Tuesdays at noon Pacific. Look forward to this costume coming together. Like I said, I'm going to rebuild this a little bit. Obviously, I have to add like the eye holes. I've got little 3D printed eye things, and those are going to go on there, like so. I have a lot more work to do on this, so look forward to more of that coming in the future. And thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all on the next live stream. Oh, yeah.